Alrighty, we're going to get this podcast starting. This is the Opinionated Geek podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Hanna, and the sound might sound a little bit better today, but we got this whole thing set up now properly. I actually have my chat up, so if people actually are chatting with me, this time I'll be able to see it. Before I wasn't able to see it, and out of some rare occurrence, I actually had 5 people attempt to talk to me last podcast, and I didn't have the stupid chat up. So this time, we have the chat up. Problem is, I've been using OBS with live. Was it the Streamlabs with OBS as my gaming platform that I use to stream my games, which has the chat right up and has all the stuff built into it, where I'm using the regular OBS because it has the studio mode, and that doesn't have the stuff in it. So now I got this chat up, I got the browser window up, I got the OBS up. We're all good now. So with this podcast, I got some stuff to talk about, but before we talk about it, I want to kind of gush over my new toy, which is actually my birthday present, with the help from my mom and myself. It is expensive, but I tell you, well, it's not very expensive really, but compared to what I'm used to, and it is kind of expensive, but it's one of my very few pieces of hardware that I have now. But I got a DBX 286S, and if you're not familiar what that is I originally started looking at stuff to possibly get for my birthday. I was thinking maybe a capture card because I would like to do consoles, and I just started looking into different stuff, and the capture card is going to have to wait. But so I got this instead, and I figured this actually will help me in other places other than the streaming and the podcast. But it's a piece of hardware, and a lot of the videos, if you go on YouTube and look, it's mainly focused on for people that stream, but it can be used for any application. But it's a mic preamp. You definitely need some sort of audio interface because it's an analog interface. So you need the actual XLR plugins and all that jazz to hook it up. But if you have that stuff, for the small amount of price that it is, you get it's got a mic preamp in it. So it's a dedicated mic preamp, and everybody knows, for the most part, if you get a dedicated mic preamp, it's most likely going to sound better in general. So right off the bat, you have that. It's got the 48 phantom power, so you can actually do your condenser mics, but of course it does dynamic as well. It's got an 80 hertz high pass, so if you have rumble of any sort of things, it will take that noise out, but it also will take out a little bit of your bass in your voice. So you got your pros and cons of whether you're going to weigh your opinion in about that. It's also got a process bypass button, which bypasses all the effects on it. And what it does have, though, is, let me turn my speaker off. I didn't realize. I forgot to turn it off. There you go. It's got a compressor built into it, so you don't have to use OBS compressor. You can use this one. It's got a de-esser on it, which is very cool. A de-esser is basically a compressor that focuses on a specific frequency, and you can choose that frequency. It gives you a different a minimum amount of frequency, but it gives you enough to work with. But with basically, it will remove the S's that can actually start to annoy people. It can tone those down a little bit so it doesn't have such a sharp sound to them, and it allows you to actually have a much more enjoyable, more professional sounding uh, audio. And then here's the kind of like the fun part of it is it has an enhancer. Now, what's an enhancer? Well, this gives you it's basically an EQ. It's basically the bass and the treble, but it's doing a little bit more than just messing with the bass and treble. It's the low frequency detail is going to be boosting some of your bass, but then in the frequency that it typically gets muddy, it will dip that a little bit too. And it's the same way with the high frequency. The high frequency will give you a little bit more energy, a little bit more air into your voice, but it won't be so harsh. But like all things, you can make it go muddy and harsh, and you can overdo it easily. In fact, I'm still kind of curious if I'm overdoing it, but let me show you how deep it can go with the bass thing. But I already feel like I do kind of have a pretty deep bassy voice, so I have it kind of like midway, but it can give you that radio voice. But the problem is, if you turn it up all the way, you will most likely, it will start to irritate people's voice or ears, and you won't be able to actually listen to that voice for very long. So you don't want to overdo it. In the same way with the high frequencies, you can get pretty high with the high frequencies too, but we don't want that. I forget what the actual my high frequency was on it. Dang it. We'll have to work with that again. And then, of course, the ultimate thing that really brings everything to kind of together is the expander gate. Now, of course, OBS has a gate expander built into it, but again, it's only meant for OBS. And for example, my music software, Studio One, I have multiple gates and compressors and all that stuff. But the problem is you can only use it in that software, or some of my VSTs I can only bring it into other software that allows me to have VSTs. This now, I can take this anywhere in the realm of audio. So if I am streaming a game or playing a game multiplayer wise, I have all the benefits of this processor right in the game because it's not dependent on software. And obviously, gaming software, most chat softwares don't have any of that stuff built into it. They might have a few things, but not all this stuff. And if you kind of want to experience the difference, I'm not sure if you'll be able to really hear it too much because it is a fairly good mic preamp. But it's pretty quiet. But once I turn off the processing, if you're listening in headphones and stuff, you'll most likely be able to hear my computer fans running, and you might even hear the dog clapping on the floor because we have hardwood floors. But let me turn it off for a second and see if you can hear the difference between the sound that it's blocking out. Also, my voice will sound different too. And that is off, and my voice is probably a little bit more quiet than it was. But again, you should be able to hear my computer fans in the background. So overall, I feel like this is a piece of equipment that I'm glad I invested in, and it's just going to make this sound more professional. The only next step that I can really go to make it more professional, maybe actually get a real green screen instead of a piece of fabric from Joann's Fabrics on a uh, garment rack, and the room treatment. That's really the only thing I can probably do to make it a little bit better. Uh, Problem is the way this room's set up. I just really can't figure out a way to do it properly because this is also, yeah, I'm using a bedroom as a office type of thing. So if I had a dedicated office, then maybe I could actually do that. But right now, I just can't. Uh, this unit has also allowed me to move my microphone up. So I have it up out of the way so it's not in my way, but I'm also using my $350 condenser microphone instead of the Shure SM58 dynamic microphone. Granted, good mic, but since I never get to use this thing and it still picks up my voice quite clearly, I am going to use this for other applications and use this for my main streaming mic now, mainly due to the gate, because before it would pick up literally everything, anything and everything. You couldn't do anything without that being picked up. All right, so let's get on to some gaming news. All right, so Shenmue 1 and 2 is coming out in an HD version for Xbox, PS4, and to my lovely happy surprise PC. Why am I happy about that? Because I am one of those maybe foolish people, but I backed the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter, and I basically just ignored it. Yeah, I spent I think it was like $30. Spent the $30, and I'm like, if it comes out, it comes out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the cool thing is I had a Dreamcast when they came out in 1999. It was the first non-Nintendo console I actually ever. Well, that's a lie. I had a Game Gear, but as far as like a TV home console, it was my first console that I actually bought that wasn't Nintendo. I think the Dreamcast was completely underrated. Sadly, I never actually got to play Shenmue 1. It was one of those things where I think by the time it came out, I had already moved with my parents all the way to Montana, and it was the most horrible experience kind of my life. There was it was definitely a learning experience, but in the end we ended up in a we originally moved into this really nice log cabin that had a freaking jacuzzi and 2 or 3 car garage, all this nice stuff. But when we got there, we realized there's not any jobs, and that was back when there was jobs. Now there's not any jobs really, unless you're like really looking for them. But now there's definitely no jobs probably there, unless you are a lawyer, teacher, doctor, or a log cabin builder. Because most of the stuff is we actually lived maybe 15-20 minutes away from Missoula, Montana, which is kind of funny because that's where Far Cry 5 is kind of based. Basically all the kids and stuff like that are going to, because it's Missoula is a college town, so everybody's going to be flocking for jobs at the typical retail things. So basically I had no job, so therefore no games, and really no life. I just spent a lot of time on the Yahoo chat, back when they had Yahoo chat rooms with the Yahoo Messenger, and I got to learn a whole bunch of cool stuff through that. And it's funny how what I used to go to, like there used to be guitar chat rooms, and people would literally play their guitar. That's also how I found out about sampling, because somebody would take their sampler and start doing music over the internet through that. But anyway, so I never got to play Shenmue 1, sadly. So this is why I'm really excited, because I've never played 1, I never played 2, and I'm getting 3. So I was like, maybe down the line I'll be able to get the Dreamcast version of 1 and maybe get an Xbox and play the second one. But I never really got, I wasn't holding my breath. So that's why I am really, 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 really happy about this. So I'll be able to actually play it. I'm, by the looks of it, I don't think it aged well, but at the time, I think it was pretty cool. So it is what it is, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. My thing is, as long as it's a good story, I tend to I'll put up with crap, essentially, if it's a good story. I mean, I've enjoyed quite a bit of the Telltale games, although now I'm starting to get a little bored with them, just because they really haven't moved forward at all with literally anything. And it's like, come on, you guys invented this genre, kind of, and or at least made it popular, and you guys aren't doing anything. And people like, who made that? I keep on thinking it was it Deck 9? I think that's who did the prequel. But the guys who did Life is Strange, and then of course the horror game on PlayStation 4, uh Almost Dawn, Beyond Dawn, something. Uh yeah, that one with the Wendigos. Uh they're doing it better. So it's like, come on, guys. You guys need to get on board and upgrade your stuff. So if I'm able to put up with like kind of boring games like that's you don't even really consider them games, or more of interactive experiences, I think I should be able to handle Shenmue, the old version, but hopefully the third one, will have some updated aspects to it. But anyway, enough of that. I don't know why I guess I just have a thing where I need to let everybody know about this stuff, even though I'm not even like really on board. I bought the Blanca skin. I checked out Blanca for maybe a half an hour, and then I stopped playing again. So I want to be good at Street Fighter 5, and I would like to play Street Fighter 5, but I just don't have the, I guess, will to go forward with practicing and stuff. But Street Fighter 5's next character, Falk, arrives April 24th. She's I think a new character, and well, she's definitely a new character to Street Fighter 5, but I'm not sure if she's new completely. But to me, she just looks like a generic character. A lot of these type characters with the little hats like that, they just look pretty boring. There's nothing unique really to them as far as character design. But I just wanted to point that out, and if anybody actually has like the season pass like I do, you'll be able to get her April 24th, or you can unlock her with fight money. But it's a pain in the butt to get fight money, as per usual, especially if you lose a lot. Speaking of Life is Strange, there is a game that you can actually go on Steam, and it's called, was it Mary's? Yeah, Mary's Room. And you look at the room, because I'm guessing it's set in a room. We're probably actually going to stream this because apparently it's a fairly short game, but it looks extremely like it's inspired by Life is Strange, and it seems to be a heavy narrative game where you're going to be interacting with items, kind of like you do with Life is Strange, and I'm sure the story is going to unfold. But it seems like a pretty interesting game that I am going to check out, and it's free. So if you're into like the Life is Strange type stuff, might want to check it out. Might float your boat, or it might not. But all right, this one's kind of funny. Uh, at least to me, it's kind of funny. So Cliffy B, or Cliff Blitsky, is complaining at Epic that they're employee poaching. Now, again, I've said in past podcasts, I like Cliff's work with like Unreal Tournament and whatnot. But here's the problem with stuff right now. He's the one of the co-founders of Boss Key, and what do we know him with Boss Key with? He made Lawbreakers. Wasn't so hot, and there could be multiple reasons for that. I won't get into that, whether it was, bad marketing or not enough research or trying to get into a genre that already had its fill of games and trying to get another one in there, and then on top of that charging for it. Yeah, it could have been that, or it could have been multiple reasons. Could have been just timing as well. But he, like, last week he announced, or I should say Balsky. I'm not sure if he exactly announced it, but they announced that they were going to bring out a battle royale game called Radical Heights, and 2 days later they literally brought it out. So to me, that's not enough push. You need to do a little bit more marketing than that. And lo and behold, it's in early access, but according to the description, it's considered extreme early access, and of course I'm assuming they're using a buzzword because it's supposed to be kind of like an 80s vibe, and so it's like radical and extreme. So they use the word extremely early access, and to me that's a bad. Just don't use that word. That just means not only is it early access, it's basically an alpha, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's super alpha, but it's hilarious because I actually saw. I went and saw somebody stream it, and somebody made the comment. It's like, wow, it's really great that Nintendo 60 people are still making games for the Nintendo 64. And you kind of look at it, and it's bare bones. There's barely any textures. Again, to me, it's like you might have a road plan, but as most things, early access is when you put it out there. No matter what, even if it is early access, you are kind of saying, this is our game. And a lot of people are reviewing early access games now. And the problem is, most people don't have time to go back and update people in those reviews. So those reviews are those reviews. To me, that's a bad thing. You don't want to do that. You want to get the game to almost its peak that you would like it to be, but you need to just iron out a few things, then release it. And obviously they didn't. And now we have Radical Heights. And it's funny that now he's saying that Epic, who's the owner of Fortnite, is supposedly poaching his employees. Now, Cliff, he helped make Unreal Tournament, and I think maybe Unreal. I don't know how far back his history goes, but in the reality, he actually worked for Epic, so he does have a sort of relationship, but maybe it's turned sour. But it's weird that he's talking about the idea of Epic poaching him. I don't think Epic needs any help right now. They have the most popular game in the world right now, and they're seeming to do well with updates, and they did awesome job at actually just getting the game out there. It took them 2 months to make a battle royale. I think they're good, but here he is on Twitter saying, "Hey, Epic Games, could you please stop trying to hire away my team?" And then he said, "We launched Radical Heights on Unreal 4 and are really happy with how it's going. We have plenty of ways to make our own, but they may never see the light of day if they keep doing this." Basically, taking their employees away. And I'm like, are they really poaching, or are your employees possibly? I'm not sure. This might be a passion project for some of these employees, but maybe they hit the wall with lawbreakers, and it doesn't look like Radical Heights is going to be doing any better because of the fact that they rushed it out there, that they're seeing the writing on the wall and they're trying to get it out now while they can, instead of just watching another flop. They're pulling a Ben Affleck. They're like, I need to get out of this Batman thing. This is, screwing my image up. Sorry about going there. I know DC and Marvel fanboys and stuff, but the part of me that says no. This is his employees bailing because the writing's kind of on the wall for this one again, and it's kind of sad because I don't want to see his games fail. Next on the docket, though, we got Billy Mitchell. He lost, as most people have probably found out by now, but he is considered to be found cheating, and they basically wiped all of his high scores from Twin Galaxies, and even Guinness Book of World Records. I believe they already fixed that as well, and he is banned from competing. So Billy Mitchell has now made an official announcement that he is going to make sure that everybody gets all the facts, and he's going to be looking into it and making sure that they get all the proof that they need that he didn't fudge stuff. Now, here's my thought. I don't know about his modern scores, but the one that he actually did like 30 some years ago, my guess is they're most likely official, and I think that they probably shouldn't take away those scores. But sadly, he's kind of in a rough situation, and maybe he is telling the truth. Maybe his stuff is legit, but the sad part is the documentary. The documentary made him out to be a pretty crappy person. Now, if you look on the internet and do a little bit of digging, there's also whole kind of like, I wouldn't say documentaries, but basically people making claims that the Billy Mitchell and Steve Wiebe, I think it was, none of that, both of them didn't actually have the high score, and it was this other person, and you'll have to look into that. There's a guy that made, I think, like 4 or 5 like detailed videos about that controversy, but I never really dug into it too much. But that's out there too. So it's like this little high score world seems to be a little bit sketchy, and there doesn't seem to be a standard, which sucks because we all thought it's Twin Galaxies. That's where you go. That's where Guinness Book of World Records goes for its scores. So I'm like, if those people can't, if Guinness can't even trust them, it's like, So you got that issue, but hopefully he'll be able to come up with something, because I do feel it's kind of crappy that they got rid of all his scores. The old ones, I don't think they need to get rid of, but his newer ones, and there's nothing wrong with you. He should be able to compete whenever he wants. Problem is, has anybody actually seen him ever compete with anybody? Except for like maybe back in the day. I don't think he seems to be a poster boy now, and that's about it. And even if he wanted to show off his high scores, I don't think he could do it in the state that he's in now. I could be wrong. So eventually, I guess we're going to see what he has to say. But again, I think someone pointed out is like, isn't that kind of what Bill O'Reilly said after he got fired? That, we'll find out the truth and all that stuff. And as far as I know, nothing came about of that. And it could be the same situation with Billy Mitchell. He might be just trying to do some PR work, but in the end, he's got nothing really to back himself up with. Because they said the one of the original tapes was even ruined. So what they have is all they have. So that's gone. So I don't know how they're going to get all this official stuff to back up his claim and whatnot. All right. I completely forgot I wanted to talk about the games I've been playing. I usually do that at the beginning of the show, so we'll get to it after I'm done with all of this news. And we only got one more thing. This should be a short podcast because I don't got much to say, but it might go longer when I start talking about the games that I've been playing. But with Movie Pass, I have been able to see all the movies that I could possibly want. And by that I mean I've just been playing it. Saturday I went and seen Ready Player 1 again. So, my thoughts on Ready Player 1 the second time. It's a little bit better. I think as much as I tried the first time around to like put my emotions aside to the fact that I had read the book, it still was there the whole time. I guess I'm just horrible at doing that, and maybe we might be able to do that as we start to watch more movies. Be able to put my emotions aside and actually look at it from a more movies at a more realistic point of view. So the second time I went into it because I knew what I was going to see. I just sat and enjoyed it for a movie. And I enjoyed it a lot better because of that. I wasn't trying to compare the book. I wasn't trying to see if they did anything better. I just kept myself completely open to the visuals that was in front of me and not doing any comparing. And when you look at the film like in that light, it is a way better film than what I initially thought. My main complaints though were still there, but it was more enjoyable. The good thing is, again, you can read the book and it's going to be a whole new experience because everything's basically completely different from the book and movie. The complaint though that I will say is still definitely there is, and I am assuming everybody will have seen the movie that wanted to see the movie, and obviously they probably don't care if I spoil anything right now at this point. So I need to set up a spoiler transitional scene. But basically, I get why Sorrento and IROC were able to find Wade. That it was very simple. It's like, okay, he bought one of those X1 suits. They backtraced the fact that his name was Wade because IROC found that out when they went dancing. So all of that matches up. That makes sense. It's like, okay, they were able to pinpoint who he was. Then my question still is, how did Samantha know, aka Artemis, who he was, and how did she kidnap him? Because all she knew was Wade. She might have said, "Oh, he bought an X1 suit." Okay, so she has the name, the X1 suit. She doesn't work for IOI that I'm aware of, so therefore she can't go to all the sales of the X1 suit and find out who they did sell it to by anybody named Wade. So that's I guess my dilemma. They could, if they just threw in somebody that said, "Oh, I work at IOI," just say that, then I think I could actually sit down and enjoy the film a lot better. But the fact is they just kidnap him. I'm like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden it's, "Welcome to the rebellion, Wade." I'm like, it didn't make any sense. And then it's just like, oh, now IOI is attacking the place, and oh, let's go out the back, and oh, hi, I'm H, hi, I'm Show, and it's just it it, it didn't actually that part just does not fit. It just seems just pushed and rushed and forced. And then of course, like some people have said, they didn't understand the whole idea of the fact that a whole bunch of people died and right away he wants to kiss a girl. And I don't think maybe that they portrayed it enough, that the fact that he doesn't really like his aunt or his I guess the boyfriend in the film enough, I guess, but he does not like them. Granted, as a human being, you should be like, well, what about all these other people that died for no reason? But you know, it's a movie. But even in the book, he didn't really focus too much. I forget what the girl's name was, but they really didn't even focus on that girl in the movie at all. But he has a neighbor that he's kinds of friends with that, you know, due to the stack blowing up, he was sad about that, losing that neighbor because of that stuff. So anyway, I got to watch that with my first movie pass experience. It went flawlessly. And then Sunday, I went just because I had the option to. I wanted to see Black Panther, but our theater is so, I guess it's been out too long that they only got 2 showings per day for Black Panther. And I just really don't like to be pigeonholed like that. So we might just have to wait for Blu-ray because I don't want to go at night because I don't like just going at night in general when I don't have to. And then they had one at 1 o'clock or whatever. And on the weekends, I'm sorry, I'm taking my time. I'm sleeping in and I'm taking my time. So essentially what would happen is I would wake up around 12 and then just fool around for a little bit, and then I'd start making my breakfast and all that stuff, and the time was just already gone. So I'm just like, we won't even bother with that. So what I did go and see is I went and seen Rampage. I I didn't want to see this. I didn't care about seeing it, but I'm just like, I'm spending $10 a month to watch a movie every single day if I want to. And it makes good content for the podcast. So I figured, what the heck? We'll watch this. And I think everybody has this notion that it's like, oh, this is crap. They're just basically trying to spend your money and playing off of people's gullibility. Yes, that's every movie. No matter what, they're playing off an idea that this is somebody that somebody's going to give up their money for. That's what movies do. If you want to see a film, that's different. They're usually trying to hit you on an emotional level or an artistic level. A movie is just trying to entertain you enough that you want to give up your money to go see that. And that's exactly what Rampage did. If I'm honest, as far as strictly video game IP movies, like Mortal Kombat, Super Mario Brothers, all the other D-rated movies that just never go anywhere. Who's the director that does those? Uwe Boll, I think his name is. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. You know, I'm not sure if I mentioned Mortal Kombat, Tomb Raider. If I had to be honest, this one is probably the best strictly video game IP movie that I've seen. It actually looks done well. The effects are great. It kind of does what it's supposed to do. It's like you're going to watch a whole bunch of freaking big animals destroy a city for the most part. And of course, they had to do the whole Transformer thing, though. It's like, we want to see stuff being destroyed by big animals, but naturally they have to throw that human element into it, and that is what it is, though, sadly. And it's kind of funny because they're like, yeah, I get the ape attacking and helping out and fighting the other big animals, but what's The Rock going to do? Nothing. In all reality, he would do nothing, but because it's a movie, he's able to help in some way. So that's where, it gets kind of stupid and cheesy. But, it's kind of a stupid and cheesy. There's freaking big animals. You just suspend your belief for a little bit and just realize that apparently Hollywood always feels like it needs a human element, a human story to it. No, sometimes you just need to actually have random generic people trying to kill fucking just a bunch of animals. The one thing I didn't like about it was you have the gorilla, and then you have the alligator, and they did mention that his name's George, the gorilla. He does have like regeneration abilities, like it speeds up. He's got super speed. So he can run pretty fast. Just basic kind of boring stuff. And then the alligator, if he had anything, they didn't really show much of anything. But the freaking wolf was awesome. And it actually, when they kind of showed him the first time, I was thinking of, even though I've never played it, I know, how can I call myself a gamer? But the Castlevania that's on PlayStation 1, Symphony of the Night, I just remember like pictures of a freaking huge giant wolf that you had to fight. At least I think it was for the PlayStation 1. I'm pretty sure it was that one. A couple of those scenes actually look like that. But the wolf had a whole bunch of cool stuff with him. He, of course, he's a freaking wolf, so he's fast. He He's violent, but on top of that, he is able to fly. So he's got the flying squirrel ability, so he can spread his whole body out, and he can actually glide. And then on top of that, his tail has got like some porcupine needles on it, and he's got that. So I they actually you could tell that they actually cared about the wolf more because of all those special features, and the other animals didn't have anything besides we are big, let's destroy stuff. So overall, it's an enjoyable film. Uh, Besides the actual animals going up the building at one point, for the most part, the only thing that you could say, well, oh, it's based off of the actual game, is in the office of the bad guys, they actually have uh, an arcade cabinet of Rampage. So it's one of those things where it's like it panders a little bit, but it's a fun, entertaining film that I wouldn't mind watching it again if it was on TV or whatever. So I give it a thumbs up. It's not great, but it's entertaining. And I guess maybe this Friday, we will go see. I think Super Troopers will be out, so we'll get to see the second Super Troopers with my movie pass. And I thought maybe there was another film coming. Oh yeah, that's right. I guess we'll go see that too. Again, I just don't care about comic movies right now, but I guess we'll go see Infinity War. I guess the week after. I think it's on the 27th of April. So we'll go see that, and then yeah, I'll definitely do reviews of each of those for each week. So I guess we'll be done with that, and we'll get to games I've played. So I've been streaming Witcher 3 on a fairly regular basis. I did stop for that week, and it took me a little while to get back on track. But once I did, I seemed to get back in the groove again, and we're now streaming on a regular basis, even just random games that I maybe not want to stream per se. So I did beat Witcher 3 completely, and by that I mean I beat Blood and Wine. So both the expansions and the original game are beat. I'll have to go back and do a lot more side quests because I basically just beelined it for the most part with Blood and Wine. I just went through the story. To be honest with you, that one was lacking a little bit. I kind of like, how at the end Geralt settles down with, I guess, whoever you romanced. I had Yen. So that's kind of cool. But for the most part, story was kind of lacking there. I really, really, really liked the Heart of Stone with the wedding quest and you being possessed by this douchebag, and so that was really fun. So it had a really, really cool, unique quest line with that one. Then there's also the original Witcher game, which was a really cool quest line as well, and a really cool story. Blood and Wine was kind of like, soap opera-y in a way. It was kind of cool for a second there, where we did what you call it? Yeah, two vampires were helping me take on a whole bunch of people. That was a really cool experience, but for the most part, it was a kind of a not so great expansion. But again, we'll have to do some of the side quests. But what they lacked in story, they made up in visuals. That's for sure, because it is a very, very, very beautiful game. In that new area of the world. So I've also been streaming Far Cry 5, and I'm starting to get into it a little bit more. I was getting a little afraid that it was going to be like Far Cry 3, where I just stopped playing for no reason, just got bored with it, and so far I'm not. I guess I'm progressing a little bit, though I've already ran into a bug that annoys the crap out of me. Uh, there is the prepper stash that's by the waterfall, or I should say behind the waterfall. I went there, I got the little crank that you're supposed to get. I put it near the waterfall, I cranked it, the waterfall stopped flowing. I was able to get down there in the actual stash. I grabbed a couple of clips that were basically in the main entrance to the prepper stash, and then all of a sudden my help that was helping me, she was under attack. So I'm like, okay, I can always come back here, but let's go help her real quick, and then we'll just come back down. I was probably stupid, and in order to actually get out of the whatchamacallit, the cave, you probably just needed to jump in the water, but I didn't want to jump in the water. I'm just trying to find a way up that can go quicker. In the end, I tried to be a moron, essentially, and I fell, and because I didn't jump out into the water, I fell near the edge of the water and died. No biggie, right? So I get loaded back up. She's fine, obviously. She acted like she wasn't even attacked, naturally. I look over at the waterfall because they actually had me, they spawned me near the cabin. So I was basically at the waterfall. I looked over at the waterfall. The crank wasn't in the waterfall area, so I'm like, okay. So obviously they saved me before I got the crank. So I go into the cabin to get the crank again. It's not there. So I'm like, well, maybe it's just in my inventory, and I need to actually go over to the where I placed it before, and nothing. So I don't know what's in this stash. I don't even know if it's anything worthwhile, but in the end, this is my second stash now, and I can't get to it because of the waterfall. So that's really annoying. The drug hallucinations, she's Zooey. They're getting progressively worse. Before, they were just literally illusions. You would either walk up to it or shoot at it, and it's literally nothing. Now they are actually turning into animals. Sometimes it's worse than what they actually originally were. Like, some could be a wolf, and then of course you like shoot it just to get it out of your way, and now it's a freaking bear. That type of stuff. I also don't like the Wolverines. They act like the Wolverines are actually Wolverine from the comics. It's like, no, it's just a stupid, violent badger. You should be able to shoot it 2 shots, it's down. But no, you got like a dump a whole clip into the stupid thing. And even then, it might still be kicking. So, that's a little annoying. But overall, I'm enjoying it. I had a little bit of fun. I bought the or I didn't buy it, but I got the perk for the repair welder thing, and you get to you can heal your trucks or open safes. I got to play around with that, and I started burning people and animals, and my partner that I hired, she's got a rocket launcher, and the first time I actually got the thing out, I actually went over to her because I didn't think anything really would happen, and I apparently it will make the bazooka go off, and the bazooka went off, and surprisingly, we both didn't die, but we were almost dead. So that was a little fun experience. So it does have its moments. Uh, I guess on to my final game that I played, and it's a game that I'm probably going to get back into. It's mainly because of it was brought up on one of my favorite podcasts, the co-optional. No, not co-optional. Co-optional. I I say it's my favorite podcast, and then I screw up the name. I'll tell you why I get screwed up. Because I like the co-optional podcast, and I like Felicia Day's and Ryan Day's uh, little show that they have together called Co-optitude. And I'll get those mixed up because they got the co at the beginning. So yes, co-optional podcast. And I think it was Total Biscuit mentioned again that about Siege, Rainbow Six Siege, and how it is doing well, despite the fact that it actually kind of sucked at the beginning. Not necessarily that it sucked as a game, but the player base was kind of not there. And Ubi, I don't know how to pronounce it. I've always said Ubisoft. I've been hearing Ubisoft lately, so I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So I'm just going to continue to say Ubisoft, and unless somebody says no, even they pronounce it Ubi. So it is what it is. I'm saying Ubi. They've continued to support the game, and they've actually basically brought it from the grave back into life, and it's on season 3 now. And I think they're actual seasons, like real seasons, not like Diablo where it's like a couple months. When they say a season, it's a full year, I think. So I think I'm going to get back into that. Cool thing about that is I bought it a long time ago, and it's just been kind of sitting there because I stopped playing it because I shot a teammate and I felt horrible about it. So I was like, obviously this game's not for me, because I felt bad because I said I was sorry, and then it probably sounded worse because I imagine what his voice would be like, but I'm like, I'm sorry I killed you, and he says, but why, type of thing, and I'm like, man, just call me a dick or something. Why'd you have to do it like that? But in the end, I'm going to go back to it because it's just too much fun. I like I like strategy shooters. The just running gun type shooters. I'm not a humongous fan of, but I enjoyed Rainbow Six Vegas so much. That's why I actually pre-ordered and even was a part of the beta of Rainbow Six Siege. So yeah, that's what I played a little bit of, and I'm going to probably continue to play a little bit. But I think we're going to end the podcast here and now. Next week, I'll hopefully have maybe some more news on Rainbow Six Siege. Definitely more follow-up on Far Cry 5, and hopefully my thoughts on Super Troopers 2. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Bye.